very exciting and humbling to have you all here tonight. Morris Allen started out in 1978. Is that 39 years ago almost? Yeah. Math isn't too good tonight. But the first person I want to recognize is my wife, Mary Ann. No, we wouldn't have a company without Mary Ann. She supported me as she raised a family, and I think raised some pretty terrific kids, and Tricia and Joanne, and Michael's not here tonight. He wanted to be, but he had to travel. And I think we started out basically the two of us, and I think we had one full-time employee, and 1,000 square foot building, which was a converted, well, it was an isolation kennel at first, and then it was a garage, and then it got converted back to a kennel. And we've grown this business from that. And like I say, I owe a lot to Mary Ann, because couldn't have done it without her. And when I think about it, I look out and see all you wonderful people. And we grew it because we've had fantastic staff and team members. You know, people can do just so much by themselves, and you're limited. And so, I think with the help of not just you in this room today, who are very key and important, but all those that have worked for us over the years, many years, some wonderful people, dedicated people. You know, 6 or 7 have gone on to be veterinarians. We have a young lady in the room tonight that's going to go to vet school. And hopefully, where is she? Right there, stand up. Maybe someday you'll be our facility veterinarian and you wouldn't have to charge us so much. So, no, it's just, it's very gratifying to see how you grow and develop. And, you know, a lot of you never had a new car, and pretty soon I look out in the parking lot and there's 2 or 3 new cars. And I'm saying, that's wonderful, you know. And keep thinking about that 401k. You know. I taught you about that now, and you're going to save your money. And so that's enough about, you know, me and Mary Ann. And I'm blessed to have Joanne and Tricia to help run this business. But we are very excited tonight to have a young man here standing in the back of the room, Lonnie, Mayne. And I credit, how many know about Howard and Estelle? You know, some of you know about Howard, he's our friend out on the West Coast. But between Howard and Joanne, they corralled Lonnie. Lonnie is really a world-renowned speaker, mentor, coach, works for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. Nike, for one, you've heard of Nike. Starbucks, you've heard of Starbucks. You probably support them financially. But to think he has come from Salt Lake City to New Vernon, Harding Township, to speak to this small little company, the Morris Allen. It's very, very humbling to me. And I think we're just so lucky that he's willing to do that. And we've had a great 2 days with Lonnie, the management team. I think we learned a lot. And I don't want to take up too much more time. I'm going to hand this over to Joanne to do the final introduction. Keep it short, though. But thank you for being here, and we love you.
I'm not quite sure how I'm going to follow that, but first of all, I know Mr. Morris has thanked you. I want to thank you. I know that there was a lot of schedule changing, and for you guys to make it here and be here is amazing, and we appreciate that. And those of you that worked right up to the very end, eat as much cake as you want. There's lots of cake. We'll sugar you up all night, and we appreciate that. We know, too, the last few days have been really hot, and you guys have been troopers to make it here tonight. I'm not sure, you know, I'm trying to look back. I don't remember the last time we pretty much had, I would say we probably had 90% of the company here tonight. I don't remember the last time we were all in one place at one time. It's probably been a couple of decades, right? Since we've done a...
Yeah, well, we had a hamburger hot dog.
We've done that, but not everyone could be there all at one time. So I think this is truly amazing, and I'm hoping this is the beginning of something that we'll be able to do again in the future. So with that being, I know we got a little introduction on Lonnie. He can fill us in more. I hope that you see this as a gift as well. I found it to be inspiring. We are investing in you as employees, but also as people. It's really important to all of us. You do well, as my dad referenced. You know, we want you to buy the new car and have the houses and do the amazing things that make you guys happy and make you feel successful. And if we can play a part of that, we're excited for you too. We realize that some of you may move on at some point. You're aspiring to do other things, but we hope that you'll always feel part of the family and that we played a part in that process for you. So again, I hope you see this as a gift. Lonnie's amazing. We've had a great 2 days, and enjoy and be inspired.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Well, let me just give you a little context and talk for a minute. Ashley, if I get stuck, you're going to have to help me here. Oh, we're there. This is an absolute amazing company. And when I say that, I'm speaking from some of the companies that Howard talked about I work with, and I've worked with for a long time, and many other ones too. My gosh, did I just say that? So let me tell you what's happened. I was with Howard last week. I'm so sorry, Walt. I was with Howard last week and spent a lot of time with him on the West Coast, and Howard got sick during the event. Everybody said I made him sick, so hopefully I don't make you guys sick tonight. So I've been checking in with him every day. He's been on my mind nonstop. So I have called Walt Howard now a couple of times. He said it was a compliment, so hopefully I apologize. Anyway, so in working with all these companies over the years, and here's what I really want to do. What I'm going to tell you tonight and talk about really comes from my heart. I believe in all of this, and I want to give you back, as Joanne said, a gift, something that you can use in your life immediately and that you can use in the rest of your life forever. And it's a little bit of a secret, and it's where I do most of my work now is with executives and executive teams and companies, corporations that have lost their soul. These are companies that don't have what you have. They don't have executives standing up in front of you and saying that they love you and that they care about you and that they want you to buy new cars. What they do is they have board of directors and these investors are saying we need a return on our investment and we want you to grow at the expense of the human being, of the individual. And it's the very human being, the individual, that actually makes companies grow. You heard Walt say when he stepped aside, right, the business started to grow. You realize the power of everybody in this room. So for the last couple of days for me, I have learned more about many of you and the company and you know, the passions and the hard work from the very beginning to now and how it all operates than I've ever learned before. And I'm incredibly impressed. So when I started speaking with Joanne about, you know, what she wanted to do, I was to take what you've already got, because you've got this amazing organization, and go even further and give back even more. And we started talking about that. That's when she says, this is a gift to you, she cares about you, and Walt cares about you, and Marianne and all the leaders that I just spent the last 2 days with care about you. And I will tell all of you, whether it's your first job, your second, or you're going to medical school, wherever you're going, what you'll learn tonight are the things that I think that we're all the same on. Regardless of what generation that you're from, Gen X, Gen Z, wherever you are, I'm going to talk about 5 things and a couple other things around that, and this will be the difference for you moving forward into your future. And not only in your professional life, but in your personal life as well. So if I do this right, hopefully I can connect with you on some of these concepts. So in working with the corporations, as I talked about, by the way, this is Charlie. I live in Park City, Utah. Anybody know where that is? It's in the mountains. It's where the Sundance Film Festival is, and part of the Winter Olympic Games in 2002. We're up there, the ski jump and all that. And I walk out my backyard, and Charlie, girl, white English golden, we go for a walk every morning. And so I felt connected as I toured the facility. Another compliment to you, by the way, is your personalities and your positivity, your smiles, your eye contact, and I know you're going to be hearing more about this as the weeks come through, is unique. So imagine walking into companies where no one looks at you. No one really wants to be there. They're not smiling. They're getting a paycheck, and they cannot wait for the weekend. I found just exactly the opposite here. So this is the main point, and I'll jump into the presentation, is that you, this organization, and the people that are here are at the par of companies like Starbucks and Nike and Google and Apple. I took a team to Apple last summer. That's the level that you're at. That's how you operate. That's how the management team, the leadership team looks at you. It's very rare. So with that being said, let's jump into this. Don't be afraid, except for those that sat on the front row. I heard that you thought maybe a magician was coming, or a psychic, and I was like, did they think that before they saw me or after they saw me? So, AJ, I've got something for you today, too. So, okay, you guys ready? Here we go. I use my hands a lot, so if I drop the microphone, just tell me to put it up if you can't hear me. All right, so here's my goal. And it took me 2 days to convince a few people to do this, but you see red shoes. We're wearing red shoes. I saw somebody else that was not with us the last 2 days that had red shoes on as well. Yeah, way to go. That's awesome. So my goal is to get you to wear red shoes, okay? That's my whole goal tonight, and we're going to talk about why that's important. Red shoes indicate standing out in everything that you do and how you show up in the world. So, you know, when you put clothes on or a suit on or whatever, and you put red shoes on, they stand out, right? And that's the whole concept of the red shoes living concept, is to stand out in everything that you do, to create the best version of yourself so people get to be the benefit of that. No one ever sits on the front row in any talk that I ever give. There will always be 1 or 2 people. So by nature of sitting in the front row, you're red shoes living already. And this was rare. I actually thought that maybe somebody told you guys to sit on the front row, because we talked about this today. I go, watch, no one will sit on the front row. When we're 10, 11, 12 years old, right, we always go up front. We're raising our hands, you know. Every time I'd say a word, children are saying, well, I know this, I know that, right? And then something happens to us along the way. We get really quiet. And the world stops, they start telling us, don't sit on the front row, you might get called out, don't do this, no on this. So we move all the way to the back. It's okay to be on the back, by the way. So thank you for sitting in the front row, okay? So you have a choice in life. You can live this life of mediocrity, or you can live a life creating red shoes experiences, or living your life in a red shoes way. It's up to you. If you're in this room, you've already made the choice. You're not mediocre. I know, because I know how the company hires. I know how they care about you. A lot of people go through life and they live a mediocre life, and it's okay, right? But it's not okay for this room, and it's not okay for me, and we'll come back to this at the end. So what's happening out in the world today? The world has become incredibly noisy, if you think about it. Whether it's politics, or it's terrorism, or it's negativity, there's all this drama that's going on in the world, right? And it's being fed sometimes by the media, and it gets really, really loud. And what it does is it starts to drown out the things that are important to us, the very things that you guys were taught and are still being taught as you move forward. Part of the key in working with the corporations and executives that I work with, even, you know, top-level executives, men and women, get lost in the noise of the world. When the investors say, you know, we just want you to grow. You worry about your people and your culture, but we want you to grow. So when you come back here 90 days from now, we better see those numbers in a better place. But the team, doesn't matter about the team, just show me the results. That's called noise. Every business has to grow. If the business here didn't grow, none of you would be in the room. When Howard, my gosh. I'm going to pay $1 every time I say that. When Walt made that decision, right? That's the decision that he was making. We want to grow, and we're not going to be able to grow unless we hire people and empower people to help us grow this business. Okay. So what did our mentors teach us? This is a small enough group. I won't call anybody out, so you can be relaxed. But what did our mentors teach us? What are they still teaching us? Our teachers, our coaches, church leaders, what do they teach us?
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself. What else?
How to be a team player?
How to be a team player. Like that. What else?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Positivity.
2. Positivity. Anybody else?
Treat others as you would like to be treated.
Right. Golden rule, right? It's a good one. So if you go back, yes.
Oh, know when to ask for help.
Know when to ask for help. Generationally, there's different generations that have a harder time with that than others, right? I find the new generation figures that out. They actually help each other, right? Crowdsource. They do all this stuff. They communicate. It's a powerful thing. So when you think about all these things that we were taught, that you're being taught, the key is going back to the noise of the world is to make sure that the noise does not drown those things out. That's when individuals and companies start to lose their soul. We don't waver on those things because they're core to who we are and what we believe. That makes us unique. I've seen executives, I've seen companies. Think of the companies right now that you've seen in the media. United Airlines, right? Uber. All the stuff that's been going on with Uber. I have friends that I used to take Uber all over the world that get mad at me now for taking Uber. Because they've had some challenges culturally and the way they treated some of their people. CEO had some challenges, was in the press. So they all tell me now, let's take Lyft, let's boycott Uber. This is powerful stuff. Wells Fargo had some challenges as an organization. Then you see really good people that have stopped listening to what their mentors taught them and they started going down a completely different path. So what did you want to be when you were young? You're still young, by the way. I'm not saying you're old. You're all young. What did you want to be?
A vet.
A vet. See, this is why this group is awesome. Most of the groups I'm talking to, do you know who Jackson Hewitt, the tax company, is? Really great people. Most of those people are not sitting in there going, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I want to be a tax accountant, you know? Most. In this room, you guys are passionate, right, about pets and what you're doing, and this is unique. What else? Was there anything else? Last week somebody said a nun. Come on, what else did you want to be?
I wanted to be a chef.
A chef. Do you still cook? You still like to cook?
I still do, yeah.
Okay, cool.
How young are we talking?
Yeah, what do you still want to be?
Well,
That makes it harder?
a mermaid.
A mermaid. Okay, we're going to pause for a minute and talk about this. A mermaid. So it is. There is a lot of things like that. Okay. What else? Top that. Top mermaid. Somebody top mermaid. You're pointing over here. I got to hear this. You guys need to sit next to each other.
We have another vet over there.
Another vet.
Yeah,
Okay. See, this is so rare.
Zookeeper.
A zookeeper. See, right? You're right. Aligned. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to share?
Teacher.
Teacher. Okay.
Teacher.
You are a teacher. This is a tough group. It's like, does she? Well, so that's the point, right? So whatever is in you or whatever was in you when you were younger or still is never leaves you. Those passions that you have, so being a mermaid, someday you're going to have to figure out how to be a mermaid, or you have to swim a lot, right? You have to figure it out. And that's the secret in life. And so when I'm working with corporations and I talk this way, you know, people are saying most of their passions are outside of their job. So there's 24 hours in a day. Just bear with me on this. If you break those hours down into 3 8-hour periods, right, in thirds, take the sleep time. Hopefully you're getting 8 hours of sleep. Most people don't, but let's say you do. Take that sleep time and throw it out. Now you've got 2 8-hour periods, right? Personal time and work time. If you're unhappy at work, you're unhappy half your life. If you're unhappy in your personal life, it's the same thing. So the trick is wherever you sit is to take the passions, the mermaids and the dolphins and the teachers, right, all these things, the vets, what you're doing, and you try to align it with the work that you're doing, wherever you sit. Now that's really hard to do with tax accountants. But I've done it. I can do that with people and say, all right, what did you want to be, you know, what are you passionate about? Well, I wanted to be in sports. Why? Because I like being a leader. Okay, are you a manager? No. Well, let's get you into a position of management so you can lead people. Does that make sense? So it's keeping that internal fire that's inside of us alive all the time. AJ. Yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but I actually want to be a professional wrestler.
Did you really? See, now that's a surprise to me. I haven't heard that. No. Do you know who that? You're too young, probably, to know who this is. This is actually AJ, you guys. This is what he does at night. So this is who I wanted to be when I was growing up. Now let me talk about this for a minute. You can see, you know, somebody convinced him to wear red boots. So that's a good thing. He's taken a chair into the ring, and AJ, is that ever a good thing? It is a good thing. Okay, I'm asking the wrong guy. Depends, right? Okay. So this is my father, and he passed away when I was 10. But let me give you a story about him. His name was Moondog Mayne. Captain Lou Albano. Do you know who that is? So he was my dad's manager when we lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We moved all over the place. We lived in Hawaii and California, Atlanta, Texas, Oregon, you know, all when I was really young. But I used to get to go to the matches with my dad when my mother would let me, right? Because I was pretty young, and it's a different crowd, right? It's a tough crowd. She wanted to make sure I was safe, especially back in this day. But I hung out, so I heard somebody earlier talking about Princess Bride, and they were quoting something from Princess Bride. Do you remember Fessig in Princess Bride? Andre the Giant. So he used to stay at my house. He comes through the door, and he had this really deep, you know, voice. And he knew I was afraid of him, so he was always trying really hard to make sure that I wasn't afraid. But I would run behind my mom and grab onto her leg and just look. So she was always encouraging me to kind of go out after him. And she told him to sit down on a table and chair that she had just bought. And when he went to sit down, he put his arm on the table and kind of lost his balance. And the table came down and the chair broke. So my mother, you know, all 5'0", walked over to him and tried to help him up first. Then she kind of slapped him on the arm, like, this is my table. And I remember thinking, Mom, do not hit this guy, whatever you do. Rocky Johnson. AJ, do you know who Rocky Johnson is? And you know who his son is? So he's younger than I am, right? And much better looking and more successful and all that. But we used to play baseball when we lived in Dallas because our dads wrestled each other. We played baseball with paper cups in the locker rooms when they went out. So I've got all this kind of crazy history. So here's why I tell you that. There's going to be 2 points to this story. When I would go with my father to the matches in Madison Square Gardens, that's the story I'll tell you, I'd sit in the locker room there and all those characters were walking around, right? So when you're little, it's just mesmerizing to watch all this. And I would watch my dad get ready for the matches, you know, put those boots on and the tights and tape and the whole thing. And then 2 security guards would come in and say, Mr. Mayne, it's time for your event. And he wrestled the main event a lot, you know. And we would walk out, we'd walk down this dark corridor, out of the locker room, down this dark corridor kind of underneath the stadium. And we'd walk all the way to the end where there would be these 2 doors, right, that were at the end. And on the other side was all this energy and the crowd. And, you know, when I would walk down that dark corridor with my dad, the closer I got to those doors, the more I could hear and feel that energy, plus feel his energy, because he was getting ready. And he'd always hold my little hand until we got to the doors. And then the 2 security guards would knock on the door on our side, and there were 2 security guards on the other side that would knock back, saying, hey, we acknowledge you're there, and we'll tell them to go ahead and announce you. So at this point is when my dad would let go of my hand and start to get ready to go through those doors. And they would announce him. You could hear it, and the crowd would go crazy. You know, they work people into quite a frenzy. It's quite a show. And he would go out into this. And those doors would open up, and he'd go out high-fiving people. And I was telling the group last couple of days, I remember it was smoky. It was always kind of smoky and just surreal. And then those doors would shut, with me on the quiet side and my dad out into this chaos. And my eyes would be as big as, you know, the old school silver dollars. It was just incredible. So that experience was amazing to me, but what really stood out is after he would wrestle and I would stay back in the locker room, I never got to go out there. I used to watch him when we lived in Texas from up above, but I never got to go out. So there's my dad wrestling who knows who, and they would get fans during the matches that liked my father, and they would bring them back into that dark corridor and they'd line them up. Sometimes they were children in wheelchairs, or sometimes they were just people who had been fans a long time. So my dad would go out as Moondog Mayne. When he came back through those doors, you know, sweaty and bloody, he became a human being again. His title of Moondog Mayne completely went away, and he was a human being, and he was my dad. And I watched him go up to these people, and you know, with the children, he'd get on one knee and get to eye level and talk to them, because he didn't want them to be afraid of him, right? I watched him give those boots away a couple of different times to people that were sitting there, and that stuck with me. And I thought, okay, so in life, you know, how is that possible? That somebody goes out with ego and all this stuff and they come back as a human being. And I'm going to kind of thread that through part of the story today, but what I learned from that is you can be powerful, you can have a title, you can do all these things, right? You can start an organization and still stand in front of people and say that I love you, and be incredibly effective and motivate and inspire people like nothing before. And that's one of the things that I work with companies and executives specifically on, and I talk about this story. So, what do these red shoes represent? You know, I mentioned in the very beginning about standing out in everything that you do. What does it mean to stand out? It means to stand out for the positive, right? To go a little bit further than what everybody else does. And I think most of us were taught that. I'm going to show you a video. It's a Coke video. They showed it at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and they showed the short version of it. This is the long version. It's security cameras from around the world capturing what I call red shoes moments. So let me share that with you. See if you can find them. Does that make sense? Standing out, right? All those things were people standing out and doing amazing things. Okay, so here we go. You ready? Pillars. First one is awareness. And you're going to hear more about this. You don't need to, completely remember everything here or take notes. But the leadership team, this is where we spent the last 2 days together, is talking about these concepts. And again, just to be fair, you're already doing them. You already have them. You're unique. So just please don't forget that. I've been so impressed with everybody that I've come in contact with here. Here's the rule to awareness, though. Awareness says that you're gonna acknowledge a red shoes moment happening in the world. When it happens, you're going to pay attention to it, or you're going to participate in it. That's the two things. And the reason that's important is tonight there have been red shoes moments happening all night long. The question is was anybody aware of them? And or even better, did you actually participate in them and create them, right? So let me talk about that a little bit further. Anybody know who Joshua Bell is? Any violinists in here? So Joshua Bell plays the violin. He plays this violin. It's a $3 million Stradivarius violin that his parents bought him. Pretty cool parents. So go back and ask your parents, up your game a little bit. And the Washington Post went to him and said, we want to know if you'd be willing to put a ball cap on and a pair of jeans and go down to the Washington, D.C. metro station at 7:30 in the morning, slip over here, and play that violin for 30 to 45 minutes and see if anybody actually pays attention to you. So he does, and it's on YouTube. If you get a chance, go to YouTube. They've sped it up, right? So you can see this. Roughly 1,200 to 1,400 people go by during that time. Roughly 30 to 40 slow down as they go by, most of which, or many of which, were children. 7 give him money, and 1 lady at the very end of the video recognizes him for who he is. So now think about awareness for just a minute. How many of you, or your friends, or people that work with you, are playing music every single day and we're not paying any attention to that beautiful music? These are the things that are inside of us. These are the things that are important to us. And sometimes our music changes, right? Might be rap, might be really sad country one day, who knows? But that's the concept of it. I can tell you the leadership team is committed to making sure that we're listening to the music that you're playing. What about the customers? What music are they playing? and they play music. I'm playing music right now. Been a couple weeks on the road. I might be a little bit tired. You know, we'll talk a little more about a concept here in just a minute that'll tie this back in, but it's a very powerful thing. So we need to listen and pay attention to each other's music when we're playing. It's so important. The world, go back to the noise of the world. It's become so loud that we're drowning out all this great stuff that we do. I get the opportunity to present at the British Citizens Awards in London. I'll be back there in July. It's my 4th time doing it. And the British government gives 30 to 35, roughly, citizens awards for doing amazing things in their villages and, you know, standing out and all that they do. And these are just incredible people. The music they play every day is beautiful. And what they're doing is they're aware that there's opportunities to make a difference in the world and to stand out. Sometimes it's in their work and what they do in work, and sometimes it's in their personal lives. Okay, gratitude. So remember what I said at the very beginning. There's 5 of these. These are the 5 things that connect all of us as human beings. Gratitude is just simply saying thank you. Being grateful for tonight. Being grateful for the food. Being grateful to come together. Being grateful that we have jobs. Being grateful for whatever health you have, that you have that health. Grateful for whatever parents that you have, you know, your mentors. It's just really paying attention to the things. In America, we have so much, you guys. So much. You don't have to go very far in our own country sometimes, let alone go somewhere else and find out just how much we actually have. They say the key to happiness or the door to happiness is gratitude. We talked today, this morning, about a concept of focusing on, you know, once a day, one positive thing that happens to you every single day and writing that down or making note of it. And the reason you do that is over time, when you do that, you start to look for those things. You know, I sat in the back of the room and listened to Walt speak. It'll go in my journal, his talk. I've had moments with Joanne this week that will go in my journal. She took me for a tour today on the way over here too. That will go in my journal. It's a beautiful area here, right? So I look for them now. I drive my children crazy with this. Because when I'm going for a hike, you know, I'm looking around and the sun's beautiful. Did you hear those birds? And I could hear my son, just last week we went hiking, he brought his girlfriend. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to prepare you. My dad's very aware. Does this make sense? This is not complex. What companies do, what corporations do, what we do as individuals is we overthink things. We spin way too much in our head. We think, and I do it too. We'll talk about one of the things we can do to bring us back from that. So everyone has a story. This is my favorite one. Everybody in this room tonight has a story for today. I don't know your story for today, but if I knew your story, I'll give you an example. You might be tired because you've been working all day. You might be thinking about something about tomorrow, right? You might be thinking about, you know, work you've got to do tonight, homework you've got to do tonight, emails you got to do, whatever it may be. You might be sad, you might be happy. You might be anxious, you might be hungry, who knows? If I knew your story every day as a human being, I would treat you in a completely different way. The only way I know what your story is to connect with you, to talk to you, to understand your story. And that can be done in many different ways. It's kind of going back to the music. What music are you playing? I don't know unless I really connect with you and get close with you, talk to you. Now, I'm not talking in a creepy way, right? All the social media we have in the world, I'm just saying, just simply talking to people. Jump on a lot of airplanes. I'll jump on a plane tomorrow, and inevitably most people on a plane are not really excited unless they're going to Disneyland or going on vacation, right? They're going somewhere fun. But a lot of business travel, a lot of stress, which stresses out the stewards and the stewardesses, and we've seen some of this on TV, right? One thing I will always do, if I witness, I've made eye contact and I'm watching body language because I'm aware, just the type of person I am now. If I sense that somebody's stressed out, I'll say, how are you doing? That's it. How you doing? And this is usually what the body language is. I know, people trying to put these big bags up and all this stuff. Hang in there. That's all I say. I get more peanuts and more bottles of water that flight than any other time. But people want to be seen. I'm aware, I'm listening to the music, and I'm starting to understand the story that individual is saying. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you a video that's heavy. I'll just tell you, I'll warn you up front. It was heavy for me. But I promise at the end of this video, I'll bring you back. This is a video that really brings to light everybody has a story. So the flip side, people get married, people, you know, graduate from school, they have these great events, birthdays. There's all the positive stories that happen too. It's not just the negative ones. But this one really kind of brings to light. Like, we're all somewhere in here. And we've all known somebody that struggled with, you know, physical challenges and, you know, what have you. So the idea is paying attention to that. And this is everyday stuff. So keep that concept of everybody has a story in mind. You know, when you go to work tomorrow or when you're with your friends, if somebody just seems like they're not quite there, there's probably a reason for it. There's probably a story. Respect and kindness. This is another easy one, but also challenging because the world has changed a lot. We have digital, you know, capabilities in our phones and our iPads and all of these things. I've got 2 grandchildren, grandson and a granddaughter. When I go to my daughter's house now, I leave my phone in the car. So if you go back through the pillars quickly, it's because I want to be aware, right? I want to understand their story, and I want to be kind and respectful, and I'm grateful to have the time with them. It's not the way I used to be. These are things that I've learned, you know, over time. We go to a business lunch now, I take and put my phone down. My phone is over in my backpack right now. We're so used to these things. That's just one example. There are simple, small things about this that if you just make eye contact, you're acknowledging people. You know, sometimes in a meeting, maybe the person that you're having a meeting with, you don't completely agree with. So maybe the kindness part of it isn't quite there, but the respect part can be there. You know, everybody deserves respect. Every single person in this room deserves respect. Kindness is the simplest form, I think, of standing out in a positive way. Made the comment the other day, if you've ever been to London, it's a little different culture, a little more conservative. You get on the tube, you get on the train there, no one looks at anybody, no one talks to anybody. They all have their headphones on, they're down their phone. Now that's part of their culture. So you can imagine if somebody looks up, you know, I'm an American looking for people to look at, and they look up and this creepy guy is going, hey, and it shocks them. And I'm really not creepy. I understand. I've got to be a little delicate with that. But it is such a simple thing. And again, it goes away. I have watched executives, I've watched leaders, I've watched friends completely destroy kindness and respect. There's an important part to this. We're all human beings, so we're going to miss. I have missed. I have been unkind. I have been disrespectful. But because I'm aware, the minute that happens, I start to think about it, and I come back to the individual and say, you know what, I apologize. I could have handled that so much better. So you have to give yourself room to be human, and once in a while not to have perfection. We can't be perfect. As well, won the gold medal in the U.S. to go to the Olympics in Berlin in 36, and then broke his leg 2 weeks before the Olympics. So they sent the alternate, became a boxing promoter. I'll give you a little more color. Promoted guys like Rocky Marciano, Ezra Charles, Rex Lane, some pretty big names over the years, and then also did the wrestling promotion. And my father was a All-American football player. My grandfather was going to Japan. No one else has heard this yet, so this is for you. And he told my dad, he got drafted in the NFL. It wasn't the NFL then, it was something else if I recall. And he said, before you go, why don't you come to Japan with me and wrestle for a couple of weeks and make some money and then go back and play football. So my dad went to Japan, and he was this big blonde-haired guy, and the Japanese fell in love with him, and he came home and said, Dad, I think I want to keep doing this. And that's how he got into wrestling, and he never looked back. So here's the story behind this. My grandparents lived in a chicken coop. They didn't have a lot of money, and my grandfather was the supervisor of this crew. My grandmother and grandfather got into a little bit of a tiff, a little fight one day over money. And she kept saying, we need to make more money. I want to get us out of this chicken coop. How many of you live in a chicken coop? You might, and that's okay if you do, right? But hopefully you don't. And he said, you're not going to work, 8 months pregnant with our child. So she said, I'll show him. And her name was Blanche. Kristen got a kick out of this today. So we called her Avalanche Blanche. And she went down to the shipyards and signed up to work. And when they found out who she was, they assigned her to my grandfather's crew. So she just showed up one day. And I used to ask my grandfather to tell me the story. And he said, what could I do? It was your grandma, Avalanche Blanche. She was going to do what she wanted to do. But here's why I give you that context. This is how she raised me. Treat those who have more than you as equals, and those who have less as kings and queens. And if you live your life that way, regardless of what your title is, regardless of where you work, your life will count for plenty. Now go back to the story I told you about my father. That same thing was taught to him. And my father's brother, who was a mentor of mine and went down the business path, I got to travel with him after my dad died. I'd go spend my summers with him. And he was an executive and a CEO, and I got to fly on Learjets, and I got to sit in board meetings with him. He was an incredible man that brought me into his world to help mentor me. He was exactly the same way. It's exactly the same way the leadership of this company is, which is why I agreed when Joanne and I talked about it to come, because I thought, I've got to come see this, because it's rare. It's absolutely rare. So that's a powerful quote. That becomes the most tweeted quote when I present. Usually after I walk off stage, that's the one everybody will grab and tweet and send out. Okay, so passion without action is just passion. You have to put yourself out there and you actually have to act. That's why the front row was awesome when you guys sat in the front row, because you're putting yourself out there. You're saying, I'm still young, right? The world hasn't beat me up. They haven't beat insecurity into me. I'm going to sit on the front row. I'm going to eat a second plate of food. Joanne and I ate a cheeseburger together today. And I've been trying to be really healthy. And she looked at me and she's like, you know, we've been eating healthy all week. I'm like, yeah. She says, I'm going for a burger. So am I. And we did. So putting yourself out there, this is the fun one. People will write in about stories, and I'll talk about a few things here in just a minute. But this is where it really all begins, right, is when you do this. So here's the story. If you've ever been on an airplane, I'm assuming most of you have been on an airplane. This will happen again. Tomorrow I'll jump on the plane. I'll be nice. I'll be aware. That whole story I told you. But then there will be that individual. I will sit down, and I'll be a little bit tired maybe because it's an early flight. And I'm thinking, I've got all this work I want to do before I go where I'm going. And I'm going to work. So I sit down. Then I see that individual coming down the aisle with the big bag. And you know when they go to put that bag up, it's probably not going to fit, and they're going to have a hard time putting it up. And you can see this, right? So there's three kinds of people in this situation that sit in that seat that I'm talking about sitting in. The first person sees it, and they said, I have been taught to help. I've been taught to wear the red shoes and stand out and jump up and help. That's the way I was raised by my family, mentors, etc. But I'm tired, and I don't want to deal with it. I just want to read my newspaper. I want to work on my iPad. I want to do whatever. So they do nothing, and they see it. The second person in the same situation says, I was taught to help. I'm also kind of tired. I've got my iPad out, but I really should help. But if I help and I jump up, somebody else is going to jump up, and that'll make me look funny, and they just start to spin all this stuff in their head. And they become very insecure, and they hesitate. Nobody was taught to hesitate, but they hesitate. So they do nothing. The third person sees it, puts the iPad down, jumps up, helps the person put the bag up. The person says thank you. They sit back down, and away they go. That's red shoes. I've been all three of those people. All three. This is the biggest curse I tell now, right, this story, because when I'm on a plane, I think one of you guys is also on the plane, and you're watching what I do. So I'm up and down all the time. People are like, whoa, I've got this. Don't worry about it, you know? All right. So putting yourself out there, it doesn't have to be big things, it can be small things. Life is lived on the other side of fear. Think about that for a minute. The scariest things, once you get on the other side of fear, is when living really begins. But you have to get through fear. You have to put yourself out there. Okay. So when my children were younger and I was traveling quite a bit, every year I would say, you know, within the U.S., where's a place you'd really like to go? And if I happen to travel there, I'll take you with me if I can. And this year, one year, my son Colton, who's now 20, he was about 10, said, Dad, I want to go to Washington, D.C. if you go. And I said, I'm going, so let's make that happen. So we flew in, got in about 12:30 at night, and I kept talking to him about going to see the White House. We were staying at a hotel that was right around the corner from the White House. And I said, let's make that happen. You'll love it. Seeing the White House at night, it's beautiful, and he was curious about it. So we'd land, we'd go to the hotel, and as we get to the hotel, I'm still talking to him about that. The gentleman that's checking us in hears the conversation as he's checking us in. He's aware. He's paying attention. And he said, Sir, Mr. Mayne, can I give your son something? And I said, sure. He goes all the way down the end of the counter. He comes out. He comes over, and he gets down on one knee. And there's a little blue box behind this. This is one of those crystals where they etch on the inside, the White House. And he gets on the knee, hands this to my son and said, something tells me you're going to live here someday. And he turns around and he goes back behind the other end of the counter. Now, as a father, I'm blown away. All the pillars were there. Every single one of them were there. And my son's eyes were big, and I said, thank you. I wished I never reached back out to the man and thanked him in a proper way. I wish I would have, but I didn't keep track with him. But we went up to the room, threw our bags down. My son put this on the windowsill, and then we went down and saw the White House, something I'll never forget. And I'm still talking about it today. That gentleman put himself out there. He had all of the beautiful pillars. So, real quick, let me set this up. This next video I hope you've seen. I'm guessing some of you have. I do some work with Samsung. And how many iPhone, Apple people do we have in the room? Okay. How about Android, Samsung products? Yeah, it's growing. It's really growing. It's been interesting to me to watch. I'm a family divided. You know, I got everybody on iPhones, and then I had one son saying, nope, I'm going to go to Samsung. And he tells us it's 10 times better, and I hear about it all the time. But Samsung is doing some really cool things. Now think about your business and what you guys do in your jobs. They are personalizing the experiences that they're having with people. They put together, this is a video that was filmed in Turkey. And I'll let the video speak for itself. You'll catch it. But I want you to watch the reaction of the person this is happening to at the very end of the video. And then also think about the pillars, if you can remember all of them, and watch for every one of the pillars that we just talked about. Pretty cool, right? He was playing music, and they were listening to it. He had a story, right? Awareness showed up in there, gratitude, kindness, and respect, putting yourself out there. All the pillars were there. This is how we show up in the world as individuals. This is how you guys show up in the world. The cool part of this, the cool part of Red Shoes and Red Shoes Living is just that. Your Red Shoes living at work and your Red Shoes living in your personal life, hopefully. So the things that you want to do in life, you should do. Go to medical school, become a mermaid. You should do these things. This is an organization of leaders that want you to do those things, want you to buy new cars. So the red shoes stay with you. You put them on, go to work, pillars show up. You have good days, you have bad days. The bad days you're aware of, you fix them, you come back, and you just make the world a better place. You make each other a better place. Teamwork, right?
Yeah.
And then you go home, they don't come off. You should probably take them off when you go to bed. Maybe not, I don't know, maybe not. But you don't take those off, right? You see somebody on the side of the road that needs help, you stop and you help if you can. We're human, we're not perfect, so we're going to miss sometimes. You have goals, dreams, aspirations, whatever those are, you don't let them go. You don't let people tell you no that you can't do them. You keep the shoes on and say, no, I'm going to do them. Might take me a little longer than it took you, but I'm going to do them. That's what Red Shoes Living is all about, and that's why it's cool. That's why I talk about it being cool. There's probably a better word. You guys probably have a better word for me than cool. But I think they're cool. Marianne and Walt wore red shoes tonight. That's cool. Joanne put a dress on and wore red shoes and picked me up that way. That's a whole nother level, right? It's all about having fun, too. This is why it's really interesting when I go into corporate America and talk. Because there's these walls, these egos, these titles, these jobs, these, bigger than life things. And I start to break this down with people, and I get executives to open up. And many of these people are not taking care of themselves. They're not getting enough sleep, right? They're overthinking things. They're letting drama get in their life and politics and things that just start to eat away at us. And they're not focusing on the things that are positive during the day. Great food, great dessert, great environment, great friends, lots of laughs, taking pictures, on and on and on. You can just go through tonight and you can list 100 things that were red shoes tonight. Okay, so these are people that send pictures in wearing red shoes from all over the place. We get all kinds of crazy pictures from all over the world. It's people that have really embraced the concept of it and said, no, this is how I want to show up. This is what I want to do. And usually there's stories behind these too. I jokingly say there are pictures we get that I can't show. So you can imagine all kinds of stuff, but there's some really great stories. Office settings, airports. Now, I'm not saying everybody that wears red shoes gets the concept. That's not what I'm saying, but there are many people that this has really caught on. Express Brands, the retailer, I told the story yesterday where I presented in between a CEO, an older CEO that was retiring and a new CEO that was coming in. I had to present right in between the two of them because the new CEO said, this is the concept that I want people to stand for at Express. And when everybody caught it, they took it out into the world and they did amazing things and started sending pictures back into Express of all these red shoes moments, kind of their own security cameras from around the world. It was really incredible. Check this out. Okay, I just pulled it off the internet, but he is wearing red shoes. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know the concept. But one of you guys is going to tell him, right? All right, so we give a Red Shoes Award away. We're coming down the home stretch. Just a couple more things. Every year, the technology company that I ran gives this award away. And 2 years ago, we gave it away to an individual, and it's really difficult to give it to one person. But we always try to find one that will be an example, a beacon of the concept. And 2 years ago, it was our good friend Tim. Does anybody besides the leadership team know the story of Tim? Tim has high-functioning Down syndrome, and he's worked in restaurants his whole life, and he always wanted to own his own restaurant. And I'm going to share a video with you here in a minute where his dad tells the story about how this came to be. But we gave Tim the award and called him to say we wanted to give him the award and wanted him to come to our conference where there was 800+ people coming to the conference and award him on the stage. And this is what it stood for. And they told us that Tim couldn't make it because he had another commitment. And I pushed a little bit and said, can I ask what that commitment is? Because I really want him here. And they said, well, he's going to Washington, D.C. to receive an award from President Obama. It's like, okay, all right, I guess that trumps us. So we decided to go down to Tim. We took a film crew down, and we went to him and filmed him in his restaurant. And let me show the video, and then I'll kind of give you a few of the stories that came out of this. This is Tim.
In the shower, do my morning routine, go around 7 o'clock, come to work. I am so excited to go to work, so I do a dance off in the parking lot. Dance, like that. We serve breakfast right in the house. The house of the best part. I am Tim Harris, and this is my place. Oh yeah. Hey guys, welcome to my place. How you doing? I'm good. How are you? No, I'm the best part, buddy. I love you. Have you been here before? I've never been here before. Well, I'm scared from the owner. This place is the special place to be at. Because if you want to operate it by the... You guys are doing a great job right here. I love you guys. You guys are the best cooks ever. I was a kid. I wanted to own a restaurant. I'm going to ask my dad to help me out. And I'm very glad I did. Thank you, Dad. I love you so much. I love you too, buddy. You're very proud of you.
He was about 14 years old and told us that someday he was going to own a restaurant. After we all gulped and gasped, we began to take him seriously, and the result is history.
They support me so I can live with my dreams.
I'm amazingly proud of my brother. Just what he's accomplished in his lifetime. I mean, people can only dream, you know?
As far as we know, we have not yet found another person with Down syndrome in this country that owns their own restaurant. We hope that other people will know.
My favorite part of all is the people coming to that front door.
How are you doing today? Good, how are you?
I'm pretty sad. I get on a hug and they feel a lot better.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
No, I'm sorry, from the food. The food is food, so. Lonnie, I'm a mean hugging machine.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You're a restaurateur.
Yeah.
And
Special
limited, and you want to go with.
I'm more than enough for myself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I did not let my disability hunt the dreams. People with disabilities can do anything they set their minds to. They're special. We are a gift to the world.
So Tim's story changed about a year ago, roughly, I think, and this came to me. CBS did a special on him and talked about what had changed in Tim's life, the rest of his story. So let me share that with you.
What makes Tim's Place restaurant in Albuquerque, New Mexico so special is that it is indeed Tim's Place.
Hello, how are you doing today? Welcome to my place.
Tim Harris was the first restaurant owner in the country with Down syndrome. For the last 5 years, he has lived for his business, which is why his customers were shocked when Tim announced recently that he was closing.
My customers, quite a lot, in demand.
So what drives a man to give up a job he loves more than anything?
Yeah.
A girl he loves more than anything. That blur in the I Love Tim t-shirt is Tiffany Johnson. They met at a Down syndrome convention.
I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. Scared
Scared too?
because I never met a guy like him.
Tiffany says it was the weirdest feeling.
I think I got hit by a love bug.
Eventually, Tim got bit by it too.
Wait, you mean my girlfriend?
You know I know. Yeah.
He made her steady and decided to move to Denver to be closer to her. Tim plans to open a new restaurant there, but it's still going to be hard leaving what he knows. In fact, he cries every time he thinks about it.
Just please say I have to please.
It's incredible to watch. He's deeply grieving about the idea of this transition,
Tim's father, Keith,
while at the same time being as excited as I've ever seen him about the possibility of being with Tiffany.
I'm lucky to have someone else.
Every time I feel sad, my girlfriend makes me a lot happier.
I'm glad they're not crying here.
When you look her in the eye, what do you see?
I see love. I see joy. I see that I have a future.
why on earth do we call them disabled?
I don't know.
When on the important things, they can be so much more able than us.
Cool, right? That's Tim. Okay, recap. Simple, straightforward. They're already in you. You're already doing them. It's just how can we take them to a level that stands out even more? And remember, personally and professionally, both. Personal life as well as in your professional life. Awareness, gratitude, everyone has a story, respect and kindness, and put yourself out there. Just one comment about respect and kindness. I'm incredibly competitive. I've always been competitive, but I'm kindly competitive. But I still want to win. I still want to grow, right? All these things. Sometimes people, when I talk this way, even executives, are like, yeah, but Lonnie, kindness, and sometimes you got to be rigid. Look, I can bite. You know, I ran a company, I did all these things. I just choose to do it this way, and your leadership team's the same way here. Does that make sense? Okay, here we are. Sustainability. This becomes the glue. This is really, really important. So you hear somebody like me come and speak, and you pick up things, and maybe tomorrow you go out and you do all of these things in red shoes, and then maybe the next day you do it, and the next day something happens, right? Wreck your car, customer gets mad, and all this stuff just goes out the window. This is what happens, because we're human beings. So over years and years and years, I thought, if I'm talking or if I'm working with somebody, if I can't talk to you every day, you know, then how do we sustain it? Well, we talked about this over the last 2 days. This becomes the glue, and the glue is you surround yourself with people that become your advocates and that sustain you. So the joke I always say, it's not very funny, but if I'm trying to be healthy, you don't put people around you that are trying to feed you peanut chocolate-covered M&Ms every day. That's one of my favorite treats. And at my old company, I ate about 3 o'clock every day. I would eat that. And I'll give you another example that Joanne did to me yesterday. It was kind of funny. And they would buy me boxes of these peanut chocolate-covered M&Ms, and then they would put them on my desk and see if I would eat them, and I would. Right? Because I'm not sustainable. I heard Walt say, you can't do it alone. This is what this means. You have to surround yourself with people that support you, that are your cheerleaders, that are your advocates. Every time I present, I have a group of friends that'll say, where are you at? And I'll tell them where I'm at and what I'm doing. And I get a text message saying, oh, they're going to love this, Lonnie. You're going to be great. That's sustainability. Sometimes I'm tired and I'm like, I hope they like it. I hope the tax people like it. I hope you guys like it. And my friends come in and say, they'll like it. Of course they're going to like it. That's sustainability. That's being an advocate. I don't believe I have a picture in here, but every Monday for years I've talked to a friend of mine in London, and his name is Maz Iqbal. And he's a syndicated blogger, and he's just an incredible man. And we have been talking, and we talk about sustainability. It's 30 minutes. Now, he knows what's important to me are these pillars and the work that I'm doing, right? Trying to help us all go further and go more. And he'll say, how did you show up in the world last week, Lonnie? He holds me accountable. And sometimes I'm like, well, I could have done a little better. And he goes, well, this is important to you. Where did you fall down? And he brings me back up. And sometimes I'm sustaining him. He's trying to spend more time with his family because he used to travel for years. You know, we make commitments to each other. You know, he'll commit and say, I want to spend time. I'm going to take my children on a hike this coming weekend. Come Monday, I'm asking, did you take them on a hike? No. Maz, this is important to you. You know, what can I do to support you in that? Does that make sense? There were chocolate chip cookies at the meeting yesterday. And Joanne was aware that I liked chocolate. She was being kind. All the pillars were there, and she said, I want to ask if you want another cookie, but I also want to be your advocate and sustain you, so don't have another cookie. It was a moment, right? It was something like that. I'm at, you know, but I went to reach, and she, nope, you're trying to be healthy. Does this make sense? Start this right now. Start this tomorrow. If there are people in your circle, as I would call it, that are not sustaining you, that's okay. Just be aware of them and just make sure that they don't bring you down and take you off track, because this happens. There's an exercise we went through as a leadership team that they'll probably share with you that can kind of help you with this, but sustainability is so important. Then you also have to be an advocate and sustain on the other side of that. You have to reach out too with your friends and say, I know this is important to you. Wherever it is, right? You want to be a dolphin. First thing we're going to do, right? Okay. There's the choice. You've already made the choice once, and I'm asking you to make it one more time and go further with it. I'm saying don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your profession, what you want to do in life, your advancement within this organization, wherever you want to go. You have leaders that support you and care for you and talked about you for 2 days about how great you are. I got to witness it. I will get to stand on the stage now, if Joanne and Walt will let me do this, and talk about all those cool companies that I talked about and mention you. And they know me, and they know that I will. I've already started doing it with my friends. I've already started talking about you guys. I've taken pictures. I Snapchat. Yeah, that's how I communicate with my kids. I'm kind of hip, right? I get this stuff. I know what's going on. But you're incredible people, and I just don't want you to forget it. The leadership team has made some commitments today to make sure that, they sustain you and they become advocates. They became advocates of each other the last 2 days. It's really been remarkable, and I want you to know I think the world of you, and I don't even know you. I'm glad you sat in the front row. I really am. I make mistakes. You heard me make them tonight when I was calling Walt the wrong name. I'm mortified by it, just so you know. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night going, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing. Yes? Here. I might be in trouble here.
You owe me.
I owe you a lot.
I'd like you to tell the story about Howard Estelle's mother.
It's a great story.
Red Shoes.
Yeah. So what I've learned, if I can start with this, Walt, when I sat down with Walt, Joanne, and we did the tours, there was a number of things that happened that Ricardo, I know a lot about you. There's a story about a van that's just amazing. It's awesome. When we left the offices and went across the street, there was a cigarette butt on the floor, and Joanne was aware, and she picked it up. And I know this is your culture. I know there's a culture of honesty and all kinds of things here. But the Red Shoe stories that exist within this organization are incredible. So I want to say that. And then the story that Walt wants me to tell is Elaine, who founded Elaine's Pet Resort, Fresno, Howard, that works there. We were doing our sessions together, and all of a sudden, one of the managers said, Elaine, you should tell him your story. It's like right in the beginning, and she didn't want to tell it. She's very humble, and finally they said, you got to tell it. So here's the story. Elaine and her husband are driving down a highway that's 6 lanes, right? 6-lane road, basically. Hennifer Avenue, I think they called it. And there are ducks, mother duck and baby ducks, that are crossing the street. And there's one car that's stopped, but nobody's out of their car. And Elaine sees this, and she said, honey, you need to stop the car. And he said, I'm not stopping the car. He knows what's about to happen. She goes, you need to stop the car. So he stops the car, and he says, don't you get out of this car. She gets out of the car, and she takes the ducks, and she starts to scooch the ducks across 6 lanes. One car stopped, and she's watching. He leaves her. He's so mad that she's putting herself, red shoes and putting herself out there. So he goes and parks in a parking lot not too far away, and she successfully gets the ducks. Now imagine the people that are witnessing this. Remember what I said about awareness. You're either doing it or you're watching it. I am sure there are people that are like, you're never going to believe this little lady. 6 lanes, right? So she gets them across. She finds her husband. They make up. And that's the story. That is Red Shoes. So I opened it at their meeting, just like this one, with that story. And everybody had a good laugh about it. So thanks for reminding me that. Well, make this choice. Make it cool. Make it your own. It's part of who you are. The culture is going to take it over. I would tell you the power of stories. You guys, I'm sure, are creating Red Shoes experiences and living your life in a Red Shoes way. It's important to share that. It's probably what many of you were doing tonight. I was hearing about weddings and all kinds of things that have been happening over the last few days. And so share these things. I really hope you caught the spirit. I hope you have some fun with it. I'm going to be staying in touch with all of you and sharing some things with you. On my website, there's a newsletter we're going to start producing, and I'm going to send that to Joanne, and she can share some things out, because I want to be part of the sustainability too. You're amazing. I want to thank you for the time, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, guys. Do you want that stand? Or do you want to hold? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Lonnie. What do you guys think? Is that really good? Before you walk to the side, Lonnie, I came back to my office today, or actually Patty's office, and we found this bag of goodies we'd like to give you, and I will have to ship it. And I just
So
tore a
pretty.
note off, I think that was for you, but I thought it would be
Oh,
quite
wow.
fun. It's all of our
Oh, very
paraphernalia,
cool.
but
See? This is what I mean.
so somebody was listening.
Thank you.
And whoever did that, thank you.
Thank you.
Because you're making me look really good right now.
Thanks a lot.
But no, it was really awesome, and we learned a lot, and we'll continue to learn together and advocate for each other. But we really wanted some place to bring everyone home. You know, when we're having those bad days, or we need that little extra boost. We're going through a really busy time right now. We know that, but we don't want to lose sight of these things. We get busy, but it's important to keep coming back to that. So with that being said, over the last few days, we've learned a lot, and I've learned that I think with each and every single one of you, I've experienced a Red Shoes moment. Amazing things are happening on a daily basis. I was just, when you were telling the duck story, I remember Cynthia, was it the day you brought the dog? You found a dog that was running down the street, and then it ended up on Facebook, and they found the owner. What's that? It was a German Shepherd, right?
Either two.
Two German Shepherds. You know, so I know you guys are doing this professionally and personally. I'm hearing these stories all the time. So one of the things, and I'd like to ask the leadership team to come up. Patty, do you have the cards that I do? And all the managers and stuff today? So you guys come up. So one of the things I really want to do is kick this off. And you can see, we all have red shoes. And as well as Mr. and Mrs. and Dad and Mom, you're welcome to come up, and Trisha. But what the hope is that someday you'll all have red shoes. And we plan to make that happen as quickly as we can, because we want you guys all to participate and be able to stand out, not that you don't already. So we're going to start. We have to start somewhere. So tonight we'd like to award a few pairs of red shoes. Did you guys think that's cool? Okay. So I want everyone to know you all deserve, if I could tonight give, I think there's 92 people we counted here. If I could give out 92 pairs tonight, I would. And I think you all deserve them. But there's a few that over the last few days, and I don't even think the managers know who's getting them tonight. I've been picking brains. I've been walking around the building. We do amazing things to recognize each other. The puzzle on the wall, the yellow cards we made for ourselves, the notes around the building, the stories. I heard something about seaweed and goat cheese last week. Where's our like that, you know, right? So when I have to tell you, and where's our Brianna? Okay. And I don't know how quickly it got, but it does get to me. I get the good stuff as well as the bad stuff, and most of it's good. So I just want you guys to know that we recognize that, and we hope that this is something, the start of something really fun and something big for us into the future. So what I've asked the managers to do is to not name the person first, but to read the card, and then we will announce, and we'd love to have you come up. If I want you to try the red shoes on, I'd love if you want to wear them and wear them out. If they don't fit, I will absolutely get you the right size. So hold on to them, we'll get you the right size. I may not have them tonight, but I will do my best to get them for you quickly. So I'm going to start down here with Patty.
This individual exemplifies the pillars through her interactions with her colleagues, our pets, and the clients. It is evident that each experience is unique and important to her. She has a gentle nature and demonstrates compassion in all of her interactions. She is always aware of her teammates' needs and acknowledges them for their daily contributions. She is very respectful of her coworkers as well as other department members. She will readily offer her assistance to other departments during any day. And she is Aubrey.
This person is extremely grateful and always willing to help her coworkers. She is quiet and keeps to herself, but she is authentic, and it is evident that she loves what she does here. She is extremely respectful of coworkers and supervisors, and in turn is admired and respected by them. And that is Melissa Whalen.
It's not
This person will do anything to help anyone. She thanks anyone who helps her. She respects everyone and treats them equally. She is a friend to all and effectively follows the 5 pillars in all that she does. It's Dana.
Alrighty. This individual is fully aware of the needs of her team and will put herself out there to assist with onboarding new team members. She is incredibly grateful for the opportunities and responsibilities she has gained through her years of service. She has held a full-time and a part-time job at the same time to support her family. She's a close friend of mine. She has made great strides in speaking and writing English more effectively. She helps all her fellow staff members when asked whether it is work related or not. She appreciates all the little things in life that others take for granted. And I've known her for like 15 years. And it's me! So this individual exemplifies awareness at a whole new level, often anticipating the needs of others and preparing solutions before the need is ever evident.
Okay, this person is the epitome of respect and gratitude. He approaches each day with gusto, is attentive to our needs and the needs of our building, and his pride in his work makes us proud as well. This is Ricardo.
This person always has a smile on her face and says hello to everyone. Her positivity is genuine and she is always willing to help others with anything asked of her. She has a true love of all animals and will cry when meeting a new cute puppy. As if that's not enough, she is a straight A full-time student, works 4 days a week, and still finds time to spend with her family. This is Michelle.
Although she is a fairly new staff member, this person has stood out with her quiet acts of kindness. Just a few examples are sharing her lunch with a coworker in need, covering a shift when asked, and personally delivering a handwritten birthday note to Joanne Morris. Not only is this a thoughtful act, she really put herself out there. Karen McCaffrey.
I've heard my office is a really scary place, and people don't like to come up to see me, and Kara came up in like the 3rd or 4th week, all by herself, with a note, and she really put herself out there, so that one really stood out to me. So my place really isn't so scary, right, Kara? So you can come up and visit more often.
Thank you for the large type. I'll pass the rest. All right. This person has an incredible story which chronicles her journey from being an undergrad seasonal employee who took her passion in studies to develop the role she holds today. She always has a smile on her face and has exhibited her ability to put herself out there. She's versatile and happily pitches in wherever and whenever she is needed. It's Jess Ross.
She has utmost respect for her position, her clientele, dogs and people alike, and coworkers and supervisors. She has been a loyal employee through many changes and growth in the company. And this is Judy.
Okay, this person has a genuine, caring demeanor towards all of her coworkers. She makes each team member feel valued by always offering a listening ear or extra hand. Her story is very unique in the way she has grown with MAI through several departments, building upon her experiences from each department to where she is today. She respects MAI and all the company has done to assist with her growth over the years. She pours her heart into every pet at MAI and treats each one as her own. She will often put herself out there by offering extra hours, shifts to ensure coverage for the work that needs to be done. And that is Lauren Mayne.
This person has a super positive attitude towards everybody. Her smile is infectious and she brightens everyone's day. She is always willing to lend a helping hand to staff and goes above and beyond what is asked of her each day. She treats all animals and people with respect. She makes it a point to get to know everyone and is genuinely interested in their story, likes, and dislikes. It's Avery.
I don't know how I follow all this amazing stuff up here, but what I'd love to do is you guys stay up so we can take some pictures. If you haven't seen this already, Mr. and Mrs. Morris are sitting here. And we'd love to have you come up and take a picture too with the group. Yeah, Tom's sneaking out there. So I'm really kind of at a loss of words right now. I didn't prepare anything to close. So if anyone wants to say anything, I'm happy to have, I know Dad always has something to say, but I have to thank you all for everything that you do. I think from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight, because I think it was really a special night, and I hope that you feel that way too. I feel like I've changed in the last day or two. I'm going to be more aware that if you see me walking around, someone told me when I'm walking around you think something's wrong. There's nothing wrong. Rumors, I like to come in and see you and talk to you. It's not because there's anything wrong. But I am going to be more aware and I'm always grateful. But I will try to help you realize that too in your own lives going forward. That's my commitment to all of you. With that being said, thank you. And then, if you guys want to try your shoes, and please, everybody, I want silly, fun pictures. Enjoy. There's still food. There's still cake. We're not, we're going to hang around for a little while. So,